So he's just left the autopsy of this small baby. And he says, but that was the job. When duty called, you went places you never wanted to go and saw unimaginable things, and you didn't get to wimp out because it was painful or horrifying or ugly beyond belief. You just took what the job dished out. So, that's it, that's all I have to say. But I really should, I don't have a marked copy, but I really, really wanted to read the scene where Burgess goes after the principal of his son's
Oh, I'm dying to read that.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
That's real good.
I don't know if I'm gonna, that's the autopsy. Was it before the autopsy?
If only there was someone in the room who knew something about the sequence of events.
Well, that's right. Well, I don't know.
Going after the principal, Katie, is wish fulfillment for a lot of
It
people.
really is, isn't it?
Here.
Gosh,
Well,
that
maybe
is
you just have to read us
something else. I can
the
read
lead
you
in the first page.
I can read you the first page because I have to, I have to take one of these copies and mark it because I haven't done that. So, okay, so here's what you get. Most people run away from fires. Firemen and cops run toward them, especially when someone inside is screaming. Joe Burgess was sitting in his car, window down to catch the soft spring air, not ready to face the chaos at home, when a kid he knew from the street came running up. He got a gasp, fire at the mosque, and someone's in there, and a frantic gesture toward the battered old commercial building that now served the religious needs of part of Portland's growing Somali community. The kid's name was Jason, a spindly towhead with a bad haircut and shabby clothes. A few years earlier, he would have been a likely candidate for setting the fire, but a good social worker and a decent foster family were gradually turning him around. Now his eyes were wide with alarm and there was an audible asthmatic wheeze in his chest. You gotta come right now, Sergeant Burgess, he said. There's someone in there screaming. Burgess was out of the truck, flashlight in his pocket and phone to his ear, before the boy had finished saying screaming, making the calls to get the fire department on the way and for more officers to help manage the scene. It was a dense neighborhood, both in terms of the number of residents and their average IQs. He couldn't count on anyone having reported the fire, and crowd control would be necessary to let the firemen do their jobs. Despite 3 decades on the job, he'd never understood people's avid desire to gawk at tragedy. Jason at his heels like a puppy, he sprinted past some shabby older houses and across the ragged, muddy space that passed for lawn. The cheaply built one-story had been thrown up for some small business long defunct. Set back from the street behind a parking lot and that lawn, it had a double entry door, a couple of picture windows now covered with heavy fabric, and a cement walkway leading to cement steps. To the right of the door, someone had spray-painted "Go Back to Africa" across the dirty white siding. So much for "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." He paused at the doorway and turned to Jason. He knew the boy would follow him right into the building, and an undersized, undernourished, asthmatic kid as a sidekick going into a smoky building would be a very bad idea. See if you can flag down some cars, Jace, will you? Maybe get us some more help here? Happy to have a task, the boy trotted off. As he headed up the walkway, Burgess could hear a desperate female voice pleading for help and see billowing smoke and flames licking the north end of the building. Behind him, he heard a vehicle screech to the curb, a door opening, and running footsteps. By the time he reached the building, the runner was right beside him.
Right.